Welcome to another episode of This Week in Parliament. We are coming to you from Job 600. I'm talking about the Walewale branch of Job 600. And I have my guest with me today, the Honorable Abdul Kabiru Mahama Tia, the Member of Parliament for Walewale constituency, former advisor on economy to the former Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable, it's a pleasure to have you today.
A pleasure to have you too.
We'll just start off our conversation and considering that this is just the week after the presentation of the media budget review, we would like to focus on that first. Is it right to say that the NDC seems to be getting right everything that the NPP got wrong? Say, when you look at the exchange rate, the dollar, the exchange rates, and then fuel prices and all that, would it be wrong to say that the NDC is getting everything right that the NPP got wrong?
Also, it's quite difficult to explain out the goodwill of the new National Democratic Congress. It's difficult in the sense that what the Ghanaian people want to see is that things are good. As to how those things became good, they really focus on that. If by providence, by sheer luck, someone is doing well, what they focus on is that it is well. If I started a journey and I did not get to the finish line and someone just took over the baton from where I left, irrespective of the number of miles or kilometers to the finish line, it doesn't matter the journey I traveled, the one who got to the finish line is usually the one who takes the credit. And to that extent, I understand why the Ghanaian people or some people believe that the NDC got all the things right or is getting the things right that we got wrong. But that's it. Any sober mind, anyone analytical mind, any critical mind will go into the numbers and to tell us what has occasioned those numbers. It is through that we can begin to know whether or not it was something done that the NDC is now riding on, or it was something they initiated, initiated and implemented. If without that, it's difficult for any ordinary Ghanaian to appreciate the story of the New Patriotic Party. What I think is that we enjoyed similar goodwill in 2017. And anyone who monitored the economy in 2017 will tell you that things were very good. But we usually forget that we're under IMF program. So through the IMF program, we had certain stability, certain goodwill, certain macroeconomic and macrofiscal indicators performing so well. The same thing that this government is having. They came and inherited IMF program. So if all the indicators are pointing to the right direction, people will be happy. They don't care whether or not the decision we took that has brought us this far. So where I sit, looking at the number, having been at a place where the economy is managed and also looking at how decisions are taken, the NDC have done virtually nothing to, get the goodwill they are getting in terms of the management of the economy. They have not done anything extraordinary different that you would say that the gains we are getting in the economy should solely be their handiwork. But I understand that they can enjoy the goodwill, but and even the IMF herself has admitted that we are getting the stability because of the IMF support program, which people initiated it. We even took the blame for going to the IMF. Now the gains are coming. We are taking the blame for domestic debt exchange program, but that has reduced our debt to GDP and has brought confidence in the economy back. Aside the fact that there was an accounting error of inflation of our debt by over 38 billion Ghana cedi. Okay, you look at the foreign reserves. The NDC has added less than a month of import cover to our gross international reserve. But we are complaining that the finance minister is saying that we have 4.8 months of import cover. Which government built the 4 months of import cover for him to inherit? You get it? So if you take every indicator by indicator. If you look at, the trade surplus, we started recording trade surpluses. Even as at the end of June, December when we hand over, we recorded trade surplus. So every indicator that the finance minister is mentioning was performing well. The The CD appreciation is the only thing that has happened so steep in this current, the last 6 months. That's the only indicator you can really say that it has done so well in terms of the steepness of the appreciation of the CD. But then it's again, you ask yourself, what has caused the CD to appreciate? And you realize that it is the factor of foreign reserves. IMF money coming in provided some buffer for the CD, which people negotiated for the IMF money to come in. This government. Okay. Gold coming in, which people started the gold purchase program and then Bank of Ghana supporting the currency with gold. It was the MPP government. So, but I understand. I understand the goodwill they are getting. I can appreciate that. But where I sit and where being critical and knowing that you can't put some measures today and you get the results tomorrow, especially in the management economy, it takes time for some of the results to yield results. You couldn't have expected NDC, which is just barely 6 months in office, to have done all the things that they say they have done.
But if you look at the policy aspect of it, this government, since even when the president was a president-elect, started some bold policies talking about the oral and all that. These are policies that ordinarily are supposed to yield results. So at one point, if you are going to attribute everything to the foundation or to even what the MPP has done, at what point then are we able to assess this government proper?
Yes, so when you want to assess this government proper, first and foremost, was a program that was supposed to recover all loot. How much has been recovered? Zero.
Well, recently the Dufour announcement by the Attorney General seems to be some progress in that regard. The Attorney General has indicated that a lot of these people that he has scheduled for prosecution are running to him for plea bargain. In fact, he says other people are actually singing good music to his ears.
As a matter of fact, in the case of Dufour, we recovered 60%, and the case was ongoing, right? They are saying that once we get the 60%, we discontinue the 40%. You see, in the second place, this current governor of the Bank of Ghana was the one held together with, jointly responsible together with Dufour. Because it was under the tenure that happened. The same person, you admit there was wrongdoing, yet you promote him to the governor of Bank of Ghana, and you say this man should go scot-free. So on oral, I mean, I believe that there would have been some gains. There's no way, because I don't want to believe that the Nana Akufo-Addo government was like he was saint and the government was very sanctified. I don't want to believe that. There were some individuals who might have engaged in one misappropriation or corrupt dealing or the other. And to that extent, they can be able to recover something for the country, just like Nana Akufo-Addo was able to recover some money from the previous government for the state. But that has not given anything. Now, their big push. Not even one single CD has been spent on the big push. They are now coming to the BDA budget and they are now telling us what they want to use the big push for. So even infrastructure development, which is going to form the foundation of the economy to turn into production, has not been done. So you can't mark them on that basis to say that the big push is yielding results, right? Most of the ministers have not even had full allocation of their budgets for the purpose of running the administrative day-to-day consumption. It's just this last month, when he was about to come and present to Parliament, that he ensured that he released statutory payment to get far. But those are not even the wheels of the economy that facilitate production in a way that will bring stability. The only thing that I can give them is to say that, okay, putting all gold, now having a harmonized body for the export of gold and ensure that the revenue comes in is the only thing that you can tangibly associate with. And that contributes to, of course, to stability of our currency and then to investor confidence in the economy. But that is not something new. They are just building on something that was started by the previous. But how they have ramped it up, how they are able to control and ensure that small-scale miners and even large-scale miners are all under the umbrella with a harmonized and regularized licensing regime, you can give them that particular credit.
Is that a concession that the Gold Board initiative is in the right direction?
Admittedly, I mean, we have issues with the propriety of how it's run, and the Gold Board initiative was also done by the then PMMC. But to have a regulatory framework for the first time for such an initiative is something that, I mean, I would concede. I'm not in the business of always trying to say that something is bad. Having something that was ad hoc, that was something that was not within the law or a policy framework. Now they put it's now running on a policy. It is something that I would concede. And I mean, I think most members of our side will equally concede that it is something good. That said, aside that, talk to anyone. I mean, ask what they have done. They should be specific. It's difficult to say what they have done. Yet, it's just the goodwill.
Are Ghanaians that generous to be giving NDC all this goodwill without necessarily like scrutinizing what has brought all of this about? Are Ghanaians deceiving themselves in giving the credit to the wrong people?
You see, you will not blame, like I stated ab initio, you will not blame a Ghanaian who is only looking at an outcome. I mean, the effect is what bothers him. The cause is of less importance. So to that extent, you don't blame them. They just want to see that their city is stabilized. They want to go to the shelves and they see that prices of goods are low. They want to go to the bank and see that their money are paid. The unemployed people don't care how the creation of job costs the economy. They just want to be sure that they find work to do. So I can understand that. But I also feel like if the Ghanaian people had known the full extent of the exploitation of the goodwill that they have given the NDC, they would have been hesitant in that particular group.
Is that what it is? Ghanaians are being exploited?
Exactly so. You see that they are rushing through. This year alone, the government has increased taxes 3 times. No Ghanaian is talking about it. But just imagine that in the Nana Akufo-Addo government in the last year, they had increased even tax once. The public, brouhaha, the cacophony that would have visited such an initiative. But this year, in the budget, they introduced some taxes. After the budget, they brought the energy sector levies amendment to increase some levies. Just last week again, they brought it back again to increase some levies. You understand? No government has ever done that. Within 1 year, you bring tax measures more than 3 times within the year, before even the end of the year. Would they even know whether before the end of the year they will bring another tax measure? So if you are doing so well, why is it that your existing tax measure you mentioned are not able to give you the revenue to do the projects that you want to do? Even they claim they are doing well, but the finance minister comes back complaining and crying that there is about 1.6 billion short of revenue at the Tema port or thereabout. Why are you not doing anything about that? 6 months in office, you are still crying and complaining, right? So if you were getting things right, and it's not just by the benevolent spirit that is visiting you, you should have also gotten that as well, right?
You talk about the finance minister complaining, but it looks like this sort of complaining or lamentations, as your people will call it, is premised on the somebody will call it the inefficiencies left behind by your government. Is it something that you agree?
That's the reprobation kind of policies that we do. When things are good, I've done so well. When you are not doing well, it is the problem of the previous administration.
Is that not the same thing that we are doing by NPP saying the dollar appreciating bit, we are responsible for it, but this one that is not good, it is your responsibility?
NPP hasn't said that. NPP said that you give credit where it's supposed to. We are not bad that say you are not. Even in today's spirit, I've mentioned the things that they have done, which is contributing to the stability of the currency. I've mentioned. So that is where their credit is due. I'm giving them. But they don't want to give credit to even the MPP for any single thing. Just tell me one single thing since the finance minister came to the parliament, even in the media budget. He was still lamenting and condemning that things were so bad when every single indicator he had mentioned was actually improving the time that he met it. None of it was deteriorating as at the time he took over. Inflation was improving. The worst it got was 50-something. It was 20-something when he took it. Right? You are moving it further. That was the trajectory. It wasn't that. Inflation was increasing at the time that you took over. Now, you have to give credit that means certain things were doing right, were being done right. That's why the inflation situation was improving. Okay, depreciation of our currency. It got worse, it was improving. Even though where it is now is far better than where you took it from, right? But something was done right. That's why it was what? The city was appreciating. You don't want to acknowledge that. You want to think that, oh, it was worse, everything was bad, and you came and turned it around. That is the dishonesty. Look at trade balances. It was recording positive when you came over. It wasn't that we were recording negative when you took over. So that means that things were done improving. So you can only give yourself credit when you find a situation that, okay, the government was experiencing negative trends of things. Then you came into office and things all of that doesn't change to positive. Then you can say that, okay, it is my magic. But where it was already moving in the right direction, but it has not gotten to where we went, then you come into power and they are moving still in the same direction. People should be able to appreciate that something was being done or something was done right and that you are continuing with that thing. So that's the problem. But if they don't want to give credit, they want to take all the credit, then if there's blame, they should equally take all the blame. It's fair, and equity would be very magnanimous with us if we decide to do that. Look, if you want to take credit, we'll give it. We say the Nana Akufo-Addo government did so bad, they didn't do anything good. You are coming in. And if there's anything bad again, you accept full responsibility that I am doing so bad, I'm not able to control revenue leakages, corruption is still at the port, and I'm not able to control it. Then that is how we take responsibility.
You mentioned what the government has been trying to do in Parliament. A few days ago, they sworn in a new member to their caucus, making them what they describe as the supreme majority. Talking about what has been happening in the past few days, as a matter of fact, your people staged a walkout, after which they went ahead to make some approvals in terms of legislation and all that. Where do you stand as a party and as a caucus in all of this? Are you really ready to live up to the supreme majority?
So that's the point, and that's the difficulty the MPP is facing. We are facing that difficulty where we see certain things going so wrong that when you are raising them, they may even term you as a crybaby. If you are raising them, they may think that you are doing the usual politics of trying to see everything wrong with the NDC. Meanwhile, the Ghanaian people expect us to provide the oversight. But when you are providing the oversight and the very people who are supposed to support you to be sober and reflect on your action and judge every action by its merits, generalizing and thinking that the MPP is being dramatic, MPP is saging workout, MPP is not ready to cooperate, it makes the work of the opposition very difficult.
So Ghanaians are not being fair to your caucus at this point.
I feel like Ghanaians have not yet appreciated what we are trying to do or what we are doing. And to that extent, they treat it as if we are still in an election mood. But elections are over. As a matter of fact, they must be the one even demanding accountability and the propriety of governance from the NDC. They should be. But unfortunately, people say, let's give time some time. And my problem as a member of parliament, as a member of the minority, is that at what stage will people not blame me for me sleeping because I want to give time some time? That's my difficulty. That if I sit down and the government come to pass a bill which imposes taxes or levy on the Ghanaian people, because I did not want to talk, because I'm giving time some time, if the effects are coming, it will be as if I was in that parliament, the bill came, we pass it without any comment or any opposition. But if I put in my issues, if I register my displeasure, my refusal, my non-compromising position on the matter, even if they have their numbers and they're able to carry out the business, posterity and Hansard will capture my views on that. You see, so some of this, and we do it for posterity. And I think that the greatest bane to our democracy is the sheer and overwhelming numbers of the NDC in Parliament. It's going to be the death of the democratic dispensation of Ghana. It's going to be the death of our democracy. And it's going to be the vehicle MDC will use to perpetuate impunity And they will use that particular vehicle to go scot-free with a lot of things. Even their side, most of them do complain. Reports come, they don't even have the benefit of even seeing the reports. But because of the majoritarian system and being MPP versus them, they say yeah or yeah to all whatever is being said or is being promoted by their front bench. And these are the difficulty that I think that this country is going to run into. We realize that the A-Farmer was the most effective. And they all say it, both sides. It was because the numbers were so close and that every decision you had to take would have to go through consultation and deliberation and what they call consensus building. But now they can get up in the morning, and if the president so feels that he didn't sleep well last night and he thinks that a tax should be imposed, it's just a matter of calling the majority leader, and then they'll stamp it.
You mentioned the majority leader. If you've ever heard him say, he believes that the caucus is exercising rightly what Ghanaians give them and what they are giving Ghanaians what they want. Is that not what's happening? And if anything at all, you complain, you mentioned there are members of the caucus complaining. Would you want to make an appeal to their conscience, probably to stand up for what is wrong as you have identified?
Well, I think that each and every member of that side has a conscience and has a constituency they represent. The constituency they represent are not only NDC members, they are not only MPP members. We both represent both NDC members and NPP members and other non-aligned members of that community or constituency. I feel that should be the guide. That should be what should be pricking their conscience. That I'm here not as a member of the NDC per se, but as a Ghanaian representing a constituency. That is what I think is good. And again, I usually seize the opportunity. Even in their lawmaking, those of you who are here reporting, lawmaking, they turn it political. That a law you are bringing to guide the good of people, and I'm on my side raising some issues and wanting certain things to be corrected. They don't even listen to the import, the cogent reasoning, the relevance of your argument. They just want you to pass it. And you see, if you look at the MPP side, you even see me making a point, and then a member on our side will get up to speak against it. But you will never see that happen on the other side, that I raise an issue, then their members on that side think that no, it is beyond politics. So that is because of they are afraid that when they do something, they may classify as sabotaging government business. And that's their problem.
One we would argue that this is history repeating itself again, because we were in this country and we saw how members of your party and members of your caucus at that time fought so hard to see e-levy passed. And we all know where it ended, with concessions from members within your party, the effects of e-levy doing to you. Is it you trying to help the NDC correct the things that you did wrong, or you acting out of hypocrisy by calling them out?
You see, when you are in government, admittedly, when you are in government, how you see things are totally different. How you see things is totally different from when you are in opposition. Because in government, you think that I promise people certain things and I must deliver, irrespective of what it will take. Now, in opposition, we try to tell you that, yes, you promise, but if it's going to cause more harm to the people than that promise, you better forget that promise. But you see, in power, they don't care about the goal of what they are going, the end result of what they are going to do. So the opposition serves as the moderating conscience on governance. We are supposed to be the one moderating, telling them that the negative side of what you want to do, don't only look at the positive side. Just like they did in the case of e-levy. Members of the MPP some members had issues with it, but they couldn't talk because they were in government. It was a government decision. I had my views on e-levy, okay, but once it became government decision, I had to make sure that I defend that government decisions. But before the implementation, my views were clear and quite obvious that I believe it was not something good for the digital economy that we're trying to push, right? But Ghanaian people, the opposition then made the Ghanaian people to appreciate that it was bad. But we don't even have the voice now to say some of the things that are going bad. Ghanaians are not listening. If you are not listening, how do you even then begin to assess whether what the minority is saying is good or not? At least, in the case of e-levy, they had the voice. Ghanaians were listening to them. But now what is happening? I just pray and hope and urge Ghanaians to start listening. They shouldn't be judgmental yet. I don't expect them to start judging the NDC so wrongly. But at least Ghanaians should open their minds and listen to the issues being raised. And once they do that, I'm sure they begin to know whether MPP is right or NDC is right and be able to take informed decisions.
You sound like you are sounding the alarm bells. I mean, just 6 months, you are sounding the alarm bells. What are the risks that this democracy, this country, risk running into with your caution that you are issuing?
The risks are that the government will run into the same troubles that we found ourselves following the successful implementation of the IMF program that we inherited from the NDC. They are going into the capital market. They start borrowing. They are going to borrow on the back of the fact that our books are good. But do they know when the next disaster will hit? And if they bring it, they are going to get their numbers go through because it's a promise they made. They are going to get their numbers go through. They will start borrowing. Debt to GDP is now 48, thereabout. There's a fiscal space. They think they can borrow to cover and still argue that our debt is sustainable. That is first risk, that if we don't take time, we'll get there. The second risk that we are going to face is that Parliament, as it were, most of even the members of Parliament, at the end of 4 years, they are going to lose their seats because they focus on the things that their central government were doing to the detriment of the concerns of their own people. I think that our democracy should be said that if your constituents are not happy with certain things, you speak against it because you're representing them. But the fear is that our democracy does not promote that. People are afraid to talk because it is their government in power. That is another risk we are going to face. Another risk we are going to face is that the government-owned functionaries are going to become complacent and corruption is going to fester. Because when you know that the public is watching, because, I mean, Sami Gyamfi broke the law, everyone was quiet, the media was quiet. On the face of the law, it was a clear breach of the law. The only rationalization was that, why don't politicians give people money? The issue was not the money. The issue was that you have no right to transact in foreign currency, and that's why the finance minister even stated it, repeated that. The Foreign Exchange Act does not allow you to receipt, does not allow you to receive, does not allow you to give anything other than the legal tender of your account, which is the Ghanaian cedi. But because of the goodwill, the president cleared him to go. You see, there are several things that has happened with agency, but because of the goodwill and the numbers of members they have, they keep clearing them. And it will get a time that everyone will be emboldened that if I do anything bad, there's a clearing agent at the Jubilee House who will clear me.
So that brings us to the end of the conversation on the economy and parliament. But when we return, we'll be talking about the New Patriotic Party, his party. He was spokesperson for the party's flag bearer going into the 2024 elections. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are still coming to you from Parliament. My guest remains the Member of Parliament for Walewale constituency, the Honorable Abdul Kabiru Mahama Tia. Honorable, your party obviously lost the 2024 elections and you've been in opposition all this while. You've had all the chance to make your personal and collective sober reflections on the defeat. What has been the result of this reflection so far for you?
First and foremost, my personal reflection was the fact that the government was so complacent. Our party was so complacent with the goodies, forgetting or jettisoning or turning blind eye to the myriad of concerns people were raising. We thought that our goodies alone were enough. nonetheless, it's a match between your wrongs and your goods, or your bad deeds and your good deeds. That is first thing, and I think that moving forward, we need to learn from that. Again, I've learned the difficult lesson that people don't necessarily vote based on infrastructure development. By far, any objective bystander would attest to the fact that the massive infrastructure development that were initiated, some of which were completed by Nana Addo government, should have given us a mandate as to how he wants the country to move on. But it never sufficed. People said, we all told ourselves that free senior high school was a life changer. Everyone admitted. But after they started enjoying free high senior school, there was something more they wanted. Imagine all the parents who were enjoying free senior high school were to vote for the MPP. There was no way the MPP would have lost power. So these are difficult lessons that I learned, and that when we begin to take Ghanaians for granted, and that we think that we know what they want and we are doing what they want, you'll be surprised that you wake up the next morning and they say that you are no more their leader. Because what they want keep changing, and you must always be listening to them. That is the first lessons I've learned. I've also learned that when you're in government, and rightly so, every government faces it, but you begin to get so complacent as functionaries of government that even your own party people who got to those positions by virtue of the fact that they were MPP members begin to forget that it was a vehicle, the New Patriotic Party, that brought the government, and that you shouldn't throw the horse. You must keep the horse. Don't make the horse a lame horse. But people, when they go to the executive position, they forgot about the party and the grassroots. That causes a defeat. The general cost of living, I've stated, was something that was not good. So we've all thought about this. There was something like also internal division. People, for their selfish and their personal, if you like, their own ambitions, got us to a point that they made certain utterances that came to be the soundbite of the NDC. And if your house, you can't keep your house in order, you don't expect the Ghanaian people to keep you in government. So these were the difficult lessons that I think that we learned, and that caused our defeat in the 2024 elections. Moving forward, I'm sure we'll learn from those lessons and position ourselves well.
You've already set the pace for the next question. Moving forward, your party recently held a national delegates conference. Some 50 plus constitutional amendments, just 2 were rejected, and so it tells you how successful that particular exercise was. What is your assessment of that, of the exercise your party has undertaken ever since you lost the election, in terms of reorganizing, reforming, and re-strategizing, and how do you envisage all of this coming into play going into your next your quest to regain power?
Yeah, so the vehicle, the machinery for any election is the grassroots. You wonder how a presidential candidate is able to win a seat or to win a polling station at Guinea. You wonder how they are able to win a polling station at Fio or at Janga, because the presidential candidate might not have even visited some of these constituencies, yet they still win. It means that some people at the grassroots level are responsible for that particular work. Now, if you have a party at the top so disconnects, so far away, distance from the grassroots, you expect this particular electoral defeat to do happen. So, as part of the reflection, the MPP came to the realization that there was a need for us to do something about our constitution, ensuring that the concerns of the crème de la crème of the party are addressed, i.e. their representation. They complain about our limited electoral college system or delegate system. They wanted it being expanded, so we had to listen to their call and make some guided or limited expansion, with the hope that we will get to a situation where we have one man, one vote. That's the ideal situation the MPP wants to. But without the data now, we have to do some limited increase in the number of delegates or the representation at the grassroots level. We also realized that some positions that were elective are now going to be, that was appointed are now going to be elective positions. So people would then contest for, i.e. the director of communication, we need to now make it some of those people who have to elect. Again, we realize that as part of the expansion, former members of parliament, former ministers of state, former MNDs are important stakeholders. Said that it got to a time that they are not part of decision making again, and they feel not consulted, so it breeds apathy. So we also decided to bring them onto the fold as people who would be participating in our decision making. So these broad-based amendments were expected to, revitalize the MPP, breathe some new energy into the new patriotic party, and ensure that everyone who hitherto was neglected is now included and involved in a more participatory manner.
Let me briefly pick your mind on this one. Your current National Communications Director, or yes, Mr. Hiagba, feels that particular amendment where you are going to have to elect people to occupy his position is wrong, because he believes that this is a position that requires some level of technical skills or professional skills to deal with. Is it something that you want to comment on?
The difficulty with that is that, you see, I said I will share similar view. I feel that sometimes the general public may not consider certain factors in the in the making of certain decisions. And that's why I said that if the general public was minded about details, they would have been careful with the actions of the NDC in their governance. But the majority can never be wrong. If they are wrong, it's the majority. They will live with their decision. You get it? And there's another opportunity for them to correct their mistake. But if I sit somewhere with two people and take a decision on who should communicate for the party, the blame will be on me. But if I give it to the generality of the people to decide, majority can never be wrong. You get it? That is, if they are wrong, they live with the consequence of it. You cannot be blamed on anyone. They selected you to be their director. If you are not communicating well, who are they going to blame? They have to take responsibility for. So that's the reason why I think that I side with the decision of the party too. That's not to say yes that you're not going to be communication team members who are going to select it. Members of the communication team are always selected. They can support, and those expertise and experience and niche areas can then be filled through that.
Your candidate, Dr. Bawumia, obviously lost the election, and some people believe that probably that should be the end of the Bawumia agenda. But there's clear indication of that the Bawumia agenda still remains alive and thriving. What is fueling all of this?
The Bawumia project is the MPP project. The Bawumia agenda is the MPP agenda. And that if you are minded about the survival, about the possibility of the MPP wresting power in the shortest possible time, then you can never afford to be left out in the Bawumia project. And that's the more reason that you may have your personal differences with Dr. Bawumia. But when it's about the party, it's about the survival of the MPP, I will urge and beg and appeal that we put aside those differences and focus on the MPP. It is formidable because, you see, you cannot just say that if you look at the last elections, you cannot say that MPP lost because of Dr. Bawumia. It's difficult because any objective person, when it comes to ideas of how to run the country, you put John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, you have no doubt as to who is rich in terms of ideas to run the country. You may have your personal differences and even how the economy got into troubles and how, but on the same wavelength, you have no doubt as his competency to think through on top of his head and to be able to give us solutions. Also, then they are now praising the gold for oil and even the gold purchase program. It came as a true crisis. So that is one. Two, you cannot again say that Dr. Bawumia, who was the reason, went from Afao to Paga. MPP was brutally injured, right? Even in the constituencies of even those people who are now claiming they want to be presidential candidates, MPP was brutally battered. in their constituency. So how is it becoming a Bawumia program? You cannot claim that it's a Bawumia project when in both parliamentary and presidential, we lost the elections. We would have won more seats and lost the presidential. If it was about the Bawumia personality, that was problematic, right? But we even won. He won in some areas and we lost the primaries. We lost those particular constituencies. And then we won some constituencies and then he also lost. So it had nothing to do with the Bawumia personality or the Bawumia as a person. It was the horse that was not so strong. The army was weak. And it's not just the leader. If you even have the most brave, the bravery of your leader will not suffice for you to win a battle if you have a very weak army following the leader. A leader is as good as the army, the people follow him. So I think that now, more than ever, is why we need to support him to ensure that we wrestle power from the new National Democratic Congress.
But there is obvious competition against Dr. Bawumia, and his competitors raised some arguments. You have tried very well to make a case that we cannot blame him for the party's defeat, but that is very contrary to what his critics argue, his opponents argue, that if no matter how, like you are saying, some people, President Akufo-Addo, regardless of how you would want to look at it, people say the buck stops at him. Don't you think the buck also stops at Dr. Bawumia when it comes to designating blame or who you would want to apportion blame for the NPP's defeat?
Well, of course. It's not that Bawumia is run away from responsibility that he led us into an election and we lost. That's not what he intends to do. But what he will never do and what he should never do is to take responsibility for the specific conduct of certain people that has contributed to our defeat. Where he contributes, he has to take responsibility. But you see, the buck will stop with him. Does that mean that anyone who was an MPP member should equally take responsibility? And to what extent do you then say that because I was not a leader, blame me, but don't blame me, but give me the position to lead you now? You see? Now, let's even go back to history. When we lost the 1996 elections, did we say that Kufuor was the problem? Or even when Kufuor was the problem, so therefore he should go? He lost the elections. Even John Dramani Mahama, who suffered the most humiliating defeat before this one, did they say he was a problem, he should go? In fact, he was a sitting president. He lost the elections. So Bawumia, who was the vice president, losing an election, and people are always saying that he should go. What of that person? If he comes and he also loses, well, that means that your MPP is only looking at someone who can get us one touch at the seat. It means that anytime anyone sends her to an election and loses, it means that the person should go, should be a goner. But it has never happened. Kufuor never contested once before he won power. And now Akufo-Addo went several times. He lost primary several times, still he came. They didn't see as an abandoned good. He came, he lost elections at least 2 times before he got the presidency, right? Evans Mills was the same thing, the same way. So I think that the fact that you've lost an election once does not give people the reason that it should be concluded, it should be a closed book. It shouldn't be that. That's not how we should do our politics. Even the United States, Trump went through electoral defeat as sitting president. Democrats, Republicans never said that that's the end of the road. They feel like he was the best person, and they brought him back, and he won power for them. So I think that those arguments, people wanted to use tribal issues, but they realized that they have no legs to stand on. People went for religious cards. They realized that those religious cards have no legs to stand on. Now, what is left of them? These are the only things that people can use against Bawumia. But when it comes to competence, they all know that, okay. When it comes to hard work, they all know that he can do it. When it comes to someone who has the energy to move and then rally and garner support for the MPP, we don't doubt that. So why should we deny such a man an opportunity and another chance to lead us?
And to wrap it up, I would just ask you this final question. As a member of the MPP, as a spokesperson for Dr. Bawumia, how positive are you about the future of your party, considering the magnitude of the defeat, your reorganization process, the very goodwill that you mentioned that this government is enjoying? If you put all of that together, how do you sum the future of the MPP?
Well, just to say that, currently I'm not a spokesperson. There are spokespersons. I may be one of them, into the campaign. I even all the time I speak for him because he's my constituent. So with the fact that Dr. Bawumia is my constituent, it makes me, de facto, a spokesperson, because I have to speak for on behalf of every constituent of mine. That said, I'm very, very hopeful that we would come out of this. Very, very hopeful to the extent that I'm equally confident that, it's just with a matter of time. I'm sure the NDC will run out of excuses, because if you are media budget, you are still blaming the MPP. You have the opportunity in the main budget or not budget to blame the MPP. Say what you needed to say, we debated it. In the BA budget, you shouldn't be still going that tangent. You should be telling us what you have done. But you realize that the NDC is still doing politics and propaganda with the Ghanaian people. That goodwill will run out, and then they will then match MPP record with their records, and we'll then see what decision they can make.
And that brings us to the end of this interview. My guest was the Member of Parliament for Walewale constituency, Dr. Mahama Kabiru Tia. Until we meet for our next interview, my name is George AEC. Keep reading from Ghana's most visited news website, www.ghanaweb.com, and visit our social media channels across all social media platforms at the GhanaWeb and on YouTube, GhanaWeb TV.